Alright, let me get right into it. So here's the thing. Everybody online was bracing for something massive, some earth-shattering reveal that was going to break the internet in half. And then, it dropped. The second trailer for Spider-Man, Brand New Day. And no, it wasn't the nuclear bomb people were expecting, but don't let that fool you for a second, because there is a lot buried in here. Now, I'll be honest with you. Almost every frame of this thing has been leaking out across the internet for weeks now. The whole thing's been dissected to death in every corner of the web. But this is the real deal. Full HD, crystal clear, and we're about to go through the complete, no stone left unturned breakdown of every Easter egg, every hidden detail, and every little thing you probably scrolled right past. I'm not going to slap a spoiler warning on the front of this, because frankly, most of this stuff has been circulating for so long that it's practically become common knowledge at this point. What I will do is hold back the heavy speculation, the real tinfoil hat conjecture, and save all of that for the back half of the video. So if you're the type who only shows up when a trailer drops, and you don't live and breathe this stuff, no judgment. I've got you. I'm going to walk through this assuming you know nothing, and we'll build up from there. Alright, let's talk trailer. So we open on something brand new. Spider-Man, mid-battle, going toe-to-toe with Scorpion. And I have to say, the choreography here looks absolutely unhinged in the best possible way. But right in the middle of this fight, something shifts. Peter senses that something's off. Something inside him isn't right. And that's the emotional thread this entire trailer hangs on. Peter Parker is changing, and he doesn't understand why. That confusion, that fear, is exactly what's going to push him toward Dr. Banner later on. But here's the fascinating part. It's not all doom and gloom. Yes, his body's transforming in ways he can't explain. But in certain moments, he looks stronger than we've ever seen him. He straight up admits it himself, that he feels like he's spiraling out of control, like this power is bigger than he can contain. Now here's a fun little detail for the leak watchers. In the alternate cut of this trailer that slipped out earlier, this exact opening beat was different. Instead of Scorpion, Peter was throwing down with the hand, actually pausing to acknowledge how genuinely cool they looked. In this official version, they swapped that out for the Scorpion fight. But from that point forward, the back half of both trailers lines up almost identically. Little bit of studio sleight of hand there. From there, we cut to Ned and MJ. And these two are in their final semester at MIT, closing out that chapter of their lives. We get this quiet, kind of aching moment where MJ turns to Ned and asks, "Who do you think's actually watching this?" And Ned just says, "Someone." And she goes, "By someone." And she trails off, because we all know exactly who she means. Peter. This is Peter. He's out there, lurking in the shadows of his old friends' lives, keeping tabs on them from a distance, but refusing to close the gap, refusing to walk up and tell them the truth about what really happened. And you can feel it. That self-imposed isolation, that quiet grief, it's almost certainly feeding into the depression that's triggering this whole next transformation cycle. It's beautifully tragic, actually. Then we get the moment. Peter Parker, experiencing organic webbing for the very first time. It just pushes out of his forearm, and he lets out a horrified, "What the?" as it happens. It's this visceral, body horror kind of beat. And that leads him straight to Dr. Banner, desperate for answers about what's happening to his DNA. Now, pay attention here, because this next exchange is doing so much more than it appears to. On the surface, it's just two guys talking in a lab. Underneath, it's laying the foundation for the entire next saga of the MCU. Peter looks Banner dead in the eyes and asks, essentially, "Could you strip out the bad parts of whatever's mutating inside me, but keep the good?" And Banner, in true Banner fashion, hits him back with a question that cuts right to the bone. He asks, "How would you even decide which parts of nature are good and which are bad?" And folks, that right there, that is the beating heart of the entire X-Men mythology. That single question, who gets to define what's natural and what's not? And we're watching that theme take root right here, in a Spider-Man film through the character of Jean Grey and the DODC. She's being controlled, weaponized, branded as an enemy of the state, for one reason, and one reason only. Because she's enhanced, because she's different, because, let's just say it out loud now, that the rights are home at Marvel. Because she's a mutant. Think about the philosophy embedded in that. If human beings mutating into something more was always just part of nature's course, then Banner's question becomes genuinely profound. Who are we to sit in judgment over evolution itself? And listen, I've sat through plenty of Marvel movies where the dialogue felt weightless, where it was just filler between action beats. But seconds into this trailer, the writing here has teeth. It's asking real questions. And that alone has me genuinely hyped for this film, before we even get to the action and the team-ups, speaking of which. We then meet William Mezzer, a figure working inside the DODC, and he drops a crucial piece of intel. Spider-Man is the only person immune to whatever Jean Grey is doing. She's this threat you can't even see coming, an enemy inside your own mind. And we saw in the first trailer how terrifying that is. She hops from body to body, holding entire conversations with Peter through other people. She does it again here. But for some reason, Peter is the one door she can't open. She cannot get inside his head. Now, the working theory is that it ties back to his spider sense, that precognitive edge that lets him dodge things before they happen. And if that's true, it puts Peter in this incredibly unique position, the one person who can actually stand across from Jean and communicate with her when literally nobody else can even come close to her level. And this opens up a whole conversation about power creep, because we're heading toward what looks like a massive street-level team-up. Hulk, Punisher, Spider-Man, and if we're lucky, fingers crossed, Daredevil. And Jean Grey? She does not belong in that weight class. She's operating on a cosmic scale while everyone else is throwing punches in alleyways. So if we do get that big three-way brawl in the third act, I genuinely don't expect Jean to be in it, because her presence would completely warp the balance. She's just too powerful. But here's where it gets interesting. This isn't a world of clean one-to-one matchups. It's rock, paper, scissors. We've literally watched Spider-Man use geometry, pure spatial reasoning, to outmaneuver Doctor Strange in the comics and even the MCU. So this is just another case of that. Spider-Man happens to have the one specific trait that makes Jean's telepathy useless against him. Power isn't a straight line. It's about matchups. Oh, and quick note for the newer fans, or the more casual crowd. Jean Grey is both a telepath and a telekinetic. Two totally separate abilities. She can move objects with her mind, and she can climb inside your thoughts. She's got both. Don't confuse them. Then we get this quietly devastating shot. Peter Parker walking in and finding Ned's investigation board. And man, this feels like the exact moment he should just come clean. Because we know from earlier dialogue that Ned and MJ are actively trying to figure out who Spider-Man is. They're hunting for him. And he's standing right there, right in front of them. Now, sometimes this kind of dramatic irony feels forced, contrived, like the movie's manufacturing tension. And I won't claim that's not happening a little here. But there are real signs pointing to the fact that this secret is going to get resolved by the end. That no matter how it plays out, Peter finally tells them, "It's me. I'm Spider-Man." Because when you strip everything away, that's what this whole movie is about. Spider-Man versus himself. And I want to sit on that for a second, because there are rumors flying around. Secret villains, the Jackal. Some even floated the Hulk as the main antagonist. My read? The Hand or Scorpion will anchor the third act as the physical threat. But the true villain of this film is Peter Parker's own mind. It's his internal war, this brutal tug of war between protecting the people he loves and answering the call of being Spider-Man, all while trying to bury his Peter Parker identity entirely. And the way out, the only way out, is by finally telling MJ and Ned the truth about everything that already happened. That's the emotional climax, not a punch, a confession, Then Jean Grey twists the knife. We get more of her taunting Peter, and she teases him. You're the only one I can't jump into, so maybe I'll go pay MJ a visit instead. And then, casually, chillingly, she leaps from body to body until she lands inside the Hulk, and she reaches up and rips off the inhibitor band. The same band Hulk warned us about earlier when he said, "If you ever see me without this, run." And then he roars. And for the first time in what genuinely feels like a decade, because it has been almost a decade, we lay eyes on the Savage Hulk, the real one, the monster. Now this? This has been a raw nerve in the Marvel fandom ever since the Russos turned him into Professor Hulk heading into Endgame. And they've admitted, on record, why they did it. They thought the Hulk was too powerful to throw at Thanos, that he'd be a walking solve-everything button, so they nerfed him, brought him down to the level of the other Avengers. Which is, ironically, the polar opposite of what the fandom was begging for. We wanted him unleashed. We wanted him terrifying. And in a universe that already had Captain Marvel and Wanda running around, depowering the Hulk felt completely unnecessary. Now, in hindsight, I'll give a little credit here. Given how Endgame was actually written, having a Hulk who could sit at the table and talk strategy with the team probably served that specific story. But I don't think the Russos realized that by making that call, they'd essentially trap him in Professor Hulk form for the entire following saga. And now, finally, in the 11th hour, right on the doorstep of Doomsday and Secret Wars, Brand New Day is undoing it. They're giving us the Savage Hulk back at the perfect possible moment. And on that note, if you haven't been keeping up, brace yourself. We are not getting Tom Holland or Mark Ruffalo in Avengers. Doomsday! Neither Peter Parker, nor Bruce Banner, nor Hulk, nor this Spider-Man will appear in that film. But the working assumption is that they'll play enormous roles in Avengers, Secret Wars. And speaking of which, Sadie Sink is now confirmed for that sequel, which is just one more nail in the coffin, confirming she's Jean Grey. Because let's be real, you do not cast an actress of Sadie Sink's caliber to play some throwaway one-off character in a Spider-Man movie, keep her shrouded in total mystery the whole time, and then reveal she's nobody. It's 1000% Jean Grey. It's been Jean Grey for a while now. I know some folks are still clinging to the idea that she's someone else. She's not. She's Jean Grey. Say it with me. Jean Grey? Okay. Now this next stretch, this montage with MJ, is where I think we get our first hard evidence of the team-up brewing in the finale. Peter tells MJ she's in danger, and he takes her somewhere safe. And where does he take her? Frank Castle's safe house. Because honestly, where on this earth is safer than being under the Punisher's protection? And then MJ turns to Frank and asks the question we're all thinking. You're really just gonna let him go out there alone? And that, right there, is the setup. Spider-Man heads off solo to finish what I believe is the Hand, or possibly Scorpion. And then Punisher follows. He shows up at the critical moment, and I have a strong feeling he doesn't come alone. I think he brings Daredevil, and this is likely where the Hulk enters the fray too. Now again, logically, Jean Grey could just mind control the entire battlefield and end it. She wouldn't need Spidey or Frank Hank at all, but that's exactly the point. She peels off to chase her own agenda, which leaves everyone else to deal with the Hand. And I keep coming back to the Hand, because if you're staging a massive team-up, what better cannon fodder than an entire ninja army for our heroes to carve through? It just makes cinematic sense. Now, this next part isn't technically in the second trailer, but I've got to touch on it, because the post-credits rumors are too juicy to ignore. And here's where I'll issue the lightest possible spoiler warning. If you want to go in totally clean, maybe skip ahead. This is pure conjecture from here. So the word from early screenings is overwhelmingly positive. But there's a recurring note that the ending might unsettle some fans, that it may not land the way people expect a Spider-Man movie to land. The implication being that Peter ends the film in rough shape, maybe wandering off alone, maybe even perishing. But here's my read. I think those screeners haven't seen the full picture. I think they're missing a post-credits scene. And I think that scene is the Venom symbiote finding Peter in his darkest moment and bonding to him in a desperate attempt to save his life. And my evidence? The next time we're supposed to see this Spider-Man is in Secret Wars. And if there's any homage at all to the 1984 Secret Wars story, and I'm certain there will be, he'd be wearing the black suit. The timing is immaculate, so if you saw a test screening where Spider-Man just walks off alone after finally telling MJ the truth, and it felt hollow, felt undeserved for a film this thrilling, that's because you're missing the context. You're missing the symbiote saving him in the final seconds. Other rumors floating around include cameos from Steve Rogers, apparently retaining his memories, and trying to recruit Peter for the war ahead, or even a Doctor Doom appearance. But I'm skeptical of both. I don't think we see those characters again until Secret Wars proper. More likely, wherever they're positioned on the chessboard when the multiverse collapses, when Battleworld gets forged out of 3 timelines crashing together, that's where we pick them back up. And that's when Spidey's rocking the black suit, just like that early 80s Secret Wars run, the one that originally inspired the Russos. Not the 2015 Jonathan Hickman version, even though the broader story leans way harder on Hickman's Secret Wars. It's just that black suit Spider-Man is so iconic from the original that it's bound to survive as one of the details that carries over, even as other massive elements like the Beyonders go completely missing. But that's a whole rabbit hole of its own, and I bring all of this up to make the exact opposite point. Because think about it, Marvel Studios is literally re-releasing Endgame with new Doomsday footage just to build hype. In a world where they're doing that, do you honestly believe they'd waste the golden opportunity to tease Doomsday or Secret Wars at the end of a Spider-Man film that's dropping 6 months earlier? I don't buy it for a second. So I won't be shocked at all if there's a completely separate post-credits sting, something that plants the seeds for Doomsday, for Secret Wars, because I'd be far more stunned if Marvel just left all that prime real estate sitting empty and shrugged. They'll show up in Doomsday eventually. Sure, that's true. But plenty of people are going to walk into this movie in a total vacuum, purely because it's a Spider-Man film. And you're telling me, with 6 months on the clock until Doomsday, they won't use a single post-credits scene to set it up? Especially when Victor Von Doom is walking around wearing Tony Stark's face? No, I don't believe it. So take every rumor with a mountain of salt. My gut says we're getting something. I can't tell you exactly what, but an Easter egg, a setup, a thread, something. So, let me hear it. Drop all your thoughts down below on any and all of this. And I'm genuinely dying to know, when are they finally going to drop that Avengers Doomsday trailer we've all been waiting on for the last couple of months? Maybe it really does come down to the wire and gets attached to Spider-Man itself. Maybe it lands after San Diego Comic-Con, but either way, there's no chance they let a Spider-Man movie of this scale hit theaters without a Doomsday trailer playing in front of it. No chance. Alright, that's it. Let me know everything you're thinking down in the comments. If you made it this far and you enjoyed the breakdown, go ahead and hit that like button and consider subscribing so you're around for the next one. It genuinely helps more than you know. Thanks for hanging out with me on this one. We'll be back with more real soon.